Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is joining us for this launch event of Global Citizens Recover Better Together campaign. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed our world in ways we could never have imagined when it started just over a year ago. Beyond the deaths and diseases caused by the virus itself, health systems have been disrupted. Millions of jobs have been lost. Schools have been closed. Poverty and hunger have been exacerbated, and the global economy has been thrown into turmoil. Every part of society has been affected, and so every part of society must be part of the response and the recovery. Over the next 40 minutes, leaders from politics, business, and entertainment will explain why they're supporting Global Citizens Recover Better Together campaign. First, it's my honor to introduce the President of the European Commission, Her Excellency, Dr. Ursula von der Leyen. Your Excellency, thank you for your support for WHO over the past year, especially in launching the Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator. Thank you for joining us today. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tedros, and dear friends of Global Citizen. Indeed, last year, WHO, the European Union, and Global Citizen teamed up to fight coronavirus, and many, many others joined us. It was an amazing and inspiring experience. And indeed, together we achieved a lot. We created the ACT Accelerator and COVAX, the global facility to deliver affordable and equitable vaccines to the world. This was a big success, but let's be frank, much more is needed. First, more funding is needed. And that's why, as Team Europe, we increased our contribution to COVAX last week, bringing it to around 2.2 billion euros. And second, vaccine doses are needed now. Vaccines are still scarce everywhere, but it is in our common interest to share. And I therefore fully support President Macron's proposal to donate vaccine doses that are necessary to vaccinate healthcare workers in Africa. Vaccines must reach all corners of the planet as soon as possible. In fact, Europe is the continent that exports the most vaccines to the rest of the world. We try hard to walk the talk, but everybody needs to chip in. And it is not only about vaccination. The crisis is bigger than that. And this is why I'm proud to support the new Global Citizen campaign, a recovery plan for the world. Let's overcome the pandemic with a global vaccination campaign. Let's stop the hunger crisis. Bring children back to their classrooms. Fight rising inequalities, and engage in a green recovery, treating our planet with care and respect. Yes, we have to fight the pandemic right now, but we also have to address its broader impact on the most vulnerable, and we need to tackle the root causes. The first important rendezvous of the year will be the Global Health Summit in May, which I will convene with Prime Minister Draghi in Rome. It will be a moment to reflect on the lessons learned, but also to agree on a common preparedness blueprint so that the world is never again caught off guard. All must weigh in, governments and international organizations, scientists, businesses and civil society, philanthropic foundations and private citizens. Everyone needs to contribute. Global Citizen has already demonstrated that engaged and committed citizens can move mountains. Hugh, you have a unique gift to convene people. Let's do it again as one world, reunited.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President von der Leyen. And support of Team Europe has been so important in the past year. and we look forward to our continued partnership. Again, thank you so much for your leadership. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of Global Citizen, Hugh Evans. Hugh, thank you for everything Global Citizen has done over the past year, including our collaboration on the Together at Home concert, which raised $55 million for the COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. And thank you for your efforts in organizing today's event. And I fully agree with President von der Leyen for your dedication and commitment, and also for your amazing convening power. You have the floor, Hugh, my friend.
Thank you, Dr. Tedros. And thank you so much to the World Health Organization. You have been the most extraordinary partner over the last 12 months, and we're so excited to continue our wonderful partnership together. And thank you to you, President von der Leyen, for your extraordinary leadership in the continued fight against COVID-19. I truly believe Team Europe is setting a high watermark standard for what needs to be done. So thank you for everything you continue to do. In 2020, Global Citizen partnered with the World Health Organization and with the European Commission on two major campaigns that raised over $1.5 billion to fight COVID-19, One World Together at Home, and Global Goal, Unite for Our Future. Yet nearly a year on from the start of the pandemic, as President von der Leyen just said, massive inequalities remain. And while positive strides in the global vaccine rollout are underway, new variants, as well as delays, nationalism, and vaccine hesitancy all threaten our ability to ensure the equitable rollout of COVID-19 testing, treatments, and vaccines. Indeed, the need for global cooperation and for all parts of society to come together has become crystal clear over these last few weeks and months. So today, Global Citizen is announcing a recovery plan for the world, a campaign that will activate millions of citizens behind the 5 most critical health, social, and economic challenges we currently face as a result of the pandemic. Firstly, ending COVID-19 for all. Secondly, ending the hunger crisis and ensure it doesn't wipe out decades of progress. Thirdly, resuming learning for children everywhere. Fourth, protect the planet in the lead up to the COP negotiations this October. And fifth, advancing equity for all. Achieving this will require all of us to play a role. And currently, we need people to step up like never before, because at present, only a quarter of Fortune Global 500 companies have made a public commitment to become carbon neutral, use 100% renewable power, or meet a science-based emissions reduction target by 2030. And more broadly, we know that the world's 2,150 billionaires saw their wealth grow by almost $2 trillion during the pandemic, while 240 of America's most wealthy gave less than 1% of their wealth away in philanthropy. So first, we must focus on achieving sufficient worldwide vaccine coverage to break the chain of transmission, including for the poorest nations. This will only happen, and this will be our only way out of the pandemic. We fully support the calls made by President von der Leyen and President Macron for wealthy nations to immediately begin donating at least 5% of their doses for frontline community health workers and vulnerable populations in developing countries. Simply put, vaccinating all the health workers in Africa requires less than 0.5% of all the doses that have been purchased to date by the G7. We must also urgently fund the $22.9 billion shortfall that still faces the ACT Accelerator and COVAX facilities so they can deliver vaccines, tests, and treatments where needed. This represents less than 1% of the total $13 trillion that the G20 have spent stimulating their economies. And finally, the pharma industry should commit to non-for-profit pricing for their vaccines for poorer nations and be transparent and reliable in their delivery schedules with all countries. For our part, as a contribution of our joint efforts, today we are announcing the recovery plan and a global broadcast event that will take place in May that will bring together the world's greatest artists to send a message to every single one of our world leaders to step up in support of equitable vaccine distribution. This is not an act of charity. This is in all of our interests. Your aunt or your parents or your brother could fall ill by catching the next variant. There is no safety without equity. We are privileged to be partnering with the European Commission, Prime Minister Draghi of Italy, also in its capacity as G20 presidency, the World Health Organization, our wonderful partner at Teneo, and many other partners and global citizen friends in advancing our shared goals. And we are grateful today to be joined by His Excellency, Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, Hugh Jackman, actor, singer, and producer, and our long-term friend and ambassador, Declan Kelly, our partner in this entire endeavor and chairman and CEO of Teneo and a global citizen board member, Billie Eilish, artist, songwriter, and activist, and Secretary John Kerry, United States Special Envoy for the climate change. And we are grateful to have all of your support. So thank you again, Dr. Tedros, for having us today. And the floor is back to you. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hugh. Thank you so much. That's really great indeed. As you know, one of our greatest concerns at the beginning of the pandemic was the potential damage this virus could do in countries with weaker health systems, especially in Africa, my own continent. As President of South Africa and Chair of the African Union, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa has demonstrated exemplary leadership in the African response to COVID-19. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your leadership, both as Chair of the African Union and co-chair of the ACT Accelerator Facilitation Council during this difficult period. We're honored to have you with us today. You have the floor, Your Excellency, and my brother.
Thank you, my good friend, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and my brother, Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, and the energetic CEO of Global Citizen, Mr. Hugh Evans, global citizens and friends. We in South Africa and Africa indeed are really honored once again to lend our support to Global Citizen and to this Recover Better Together campaign. For the past 10 years, Global Citizen has been a leading voice for the involvement of governments, world leaders, philanthropists, activists, artists, and the citizens of the world in ending extreme poverty. When the coronavirus pandemic struck last year, Global Citizen responded swiftly, hosting the One World Together at Home benefit concert in support of healthcare workers on the front line. That was most commendable. The substantial pledges made for the coronavirus relief at this event enabled non-governmental organizations around the world to help those most vulnerable people in many countries. The campaign we are launching today recognizes that overcoming the COVID-19 pandemic is essential if we are to make any progress in tackling poverty. To achieve this, we must deepen cooperation to ensure equitable access to vaccines. No person, no country, and no region must be left behind. To fight the pandemic, we need to pool all our resources, our capabilities, our knowledge, and intellectual property. That is why we continue to call on world leaders to support the COVAX facility to ensure rapid and equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines for all countries. And in this regard, I applaud and support what President Macron and indeed President Ursula von der Leyen have called for, that rich countries should donate 5% of their vaccines to needy countries, particularly on our continent, Africa. Another important step is to enable the transfer of medical technology for the duration of the pandemic. This will allow us to increase the production of COVID-19 vaccines and other medical products. It will also enable us to lower prices and to improve distribution so that these vaccines and medical supplies reach all corners of the world. Along these efforts to overcome the pandemic, we must work together to end hunger, promote education, and the resumption of learning, and to protect our planet. By doing so, we will be contributing to a fair and just and inclusive recovery. The world will recover, that is for sure, but we want it to recover better, and we want it to recover for the benefit of all, leaving no one behind. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency and my brother, and thank you once again for your leadership and support today and in the past year. Hugh, over to you to introduce our next guests. Thank you so much again, Hugh.
Thank you, Dr. Tedros. It's now my great pleasure to introduce a long-standing global citizen ambassador who's been at the heart of the movement since the organization first began. He has truly been the most extraordinary support for Global Citizen, literally since day one, in fact, before day one. You know Hugh Jackman as an actor, as an extraordinary, talented producer and everything that he does, but we know him as a friend and partner and Global Citizen ambassador, because he's been the most extraordinary support to our entire movement. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce you to the wonderful Hugh Jackman. You have the floor.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you everybody who is watching. Good morning, good evening. If you're in Australia or New Zealand or Asia and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, that's hardcore, and I really appreciate you being here. I'm so excited about being part of this launch for the recovery plan for Global Citizen. As Hugh said, I was there right at the very beginning because it just, to me, was a no-brainer. Here was an organization that was galvanizing millions and millions of people and bringing their voice together, because I truly believe of the power of people to come together, to take action and really, really move the needle. And that's what I love about Global Citizen. It has now become the largest movement of action takers in the world. And what I truly love about it is it does not matter if you have money, it doesn't matter if you're old or young, what sex you are, what race you are, none of that matters. What matters is that we come together, because the problems that we are facing, particularly now, are never going to be solved by one country or even a bunch of countries. We need to come together, every single person, as every esteemed member of this panel has already said. So thank you so much for listening in. I really hope that some of you have never heard of Global Citizen, because our goal is to keep this thing growing and going. We've just begun. There are millions already, but we need hundreds of millions. So thank you for joining us. As has already been said, COVID has wreaked immense damage, social, economic, environmental, and the progress towards the global goals have been stalled. In some cases, with extreme poverty, they've actually been reversed. But together we can do a lot. This last year, I joined some of my fellow X-Men to be part of the global goals, Unite for Our Future, and as already been said, $1.5 billion from 41 countries was pledged to help end COVID, but we need you. We need every single person. So please, please join us. We need to curb the hunger crisis. We need to protect the planet. We need to get kids back in school. There's so much we need to do. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And as I said, it doesn't take money. Just join us, call on governments, take action, write letters, volunteer, whatever you can do in wherever you are is meaningful and vital. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone on this panel. It's truly inspiring for me to be here. If I could just say thank you, Hugh Evans, for putting me on a panel with Billie Eilish. I'm a massive fan, Billie. And as of dinner last night, according to my 15-year-old, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. So, and I'm certainly going to put it in my top 10 anyway. But for her, it's #1. So thank you, guys. And without further ado, I'm going to hand on to my very good long-term friend, Declan Kelly. He's a great business leader, and he's going to tell you more about the efforts of global CEOs. Over to you, Declan.
Thank you, Hugh. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody, wherever you are in the world. It's my privilege to join you here this morning. And Hugh, thank you for your moving words and for being open to the conversation about how we all lock arms to inspire action to achieve the global goals, and for everything you've done for all of us at Global Citizen. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, thank you for hosting us here today. And Hugh Evans, thank you for your leadership and partnership. My great friend and partner in all these efforts. It's such a privilege to work with you every day. My job here today is to talk to you about how we are going to and how we are getting the private sector to support our efforts, and how we need everyone's help to get that effort moving even further, faster, and more rapidly. For many, 2020 was the year that the world turned upside down, I think for all of us. We didn't see it coming. A global pandemic was nowhere on the list of likely global risks that CEOs worried about every day when they went to work. This, despite any number of warnings from the experts over the years, including people on this call, and the real world experience of Ebola, SARS, MERS, and so many other issues. There's been a lot of talk about what's next. There's been a lot of talk about the new normal, but we don't think that's the right way to describe it. Some things will go back to how they were. Some things will evolve predictably, but the pandemic itself is truly a discontinuity. It is a reboot moment, and many things will not look like anything like they did before it happened. So what should the private sector do about all of this? And what are we going to work with them to try to make happen? In 2020, we saw the end of 50 years of shareholder capitalism as the dominant narrative in business around the world. It is absolutely clear now that unless you connect your purpose and values to all your stakeholders and the wider world, you're going to get left behind. CEOs will need to stand up and be counted even more than ever before. And now is the time for them to do so. It is easy to be pessimistic about our future after COVID-19. Instead, I and you and everybody involved in this campaign and initiative are optimistic. In crisis, as well as tragedy, we have also observed the very best of humanity. The first responders who walk into danger for us every day. Family, friends, and communities helping each other. The new dialogue that has broken out, thankfully, about race, diversity, and inequality. Teneo, my company, and I personally, am honored to be partnering in this year-long effort, yet again this year, to help the world recover better together, and to be uniting the private sector, for that is our role, uniting the private sector behind this mission. We are honored to stand alongside the campaign co-chairs, those companies that are already standing beside us, that have invested many, many millions of dollars to make this all possible, and are encouraging many other companies to do the same. Citi, Cisco, Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, Live Nation, Procter & Gamble, Google, Verizon, and WW International, all global household names who have lined up beside us in this campaign to activate global citizens and unite the world again on September 25th with Global Citizen Live. I hope you join us there. Thank you for all your support. And now it's my distinct privilege to introduce the remarkable artist, songwriter, and activist, a woman who has taken the world truly by storm, Miss Billie Eilish.
Thank you. Hi, guys. It's such an honor to be here. I wanted to say hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to launch the Recovery Plan for the World campaign with Global Citizen. A year ago, I was like 3 shows into my world tour when, because of COVID-19, we had to cancel everything for the safety of my fans and crew. And now a year later, the pandemic is still raging across the globe. And I'm still at home like most of you. But we've seen how we can create change when we come together and use our voices. So we got to take action to get everybody access to COVID-19 vaccines as quickly as possible. At the same time, we got to actively address the climate crisis and strive to curb CO2 emissions and protect biodiversity. I want to ask all of my fans to join me and take action in support of this campaign. We need to call on the government leaders, corporations, and philanthropists to make commitments so the world can recover from the devastating impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The sooner we take action together, the sooner we'll be able to get back to life and seeing live music. I can't wait to see all of you again as soon as it's safe. Please, please join me and go to globalcitizen.org/2021 to take action. Thank you all for having me once again. Thank you, Hugh Jackman, for what you said. I'm a big fan of yours, so that's crazy. And it's really an honor. I feel undeserving of being here. So thank you guys. And that is basically all I have to say. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Billie. And thank you so much for leading your voice, lending your voice to this campaign. You have a powerful voice, whether singing or speaking, and we need that voice as we work together to respond, recover, and rebuild. It's now my great pleasure to introduce my old friend, Secretary John Kerry. I have had the privilege of knowing and working with John for several years, and it's such a great honor to be working with you once again as we seek to recover better together. You have the floor, my friend.
Great to, Dr. Tedros, I think you can hear me now. It's great to be with you. You are my old friend, and I'm really happy for the work you're doing, and I'm delighted to join everybody here. I'm sort of overdressed, I know, but I just came from the UN Security Council, where we were arguing the issue of climate crisis as a worthy issue to be taken up by the Security Council. And so it's a pleasure to just segue right into this effort. And my friend, the President, Ursula von der Leyen, I think has had to take off, but I'm pleased to be joining her, and Hugh Jackman, Hugh Evans, Billie Eilish, and Declan, thank you for your efforts to corral the private sector and bring them together. The bottom line is, folks, Global Citizen and its partners launching this Global Citizens Recovery Plan for the World is a pretty big deal. It's a bold plan of action to address the greatest challenges of our time, to get through and beyond the pandemic, to stop the hunger crisis affecting far too many people around the world, to resume learning for all children. I know that every parent I'm talking to is more than anxious to get their kids back into school, to promote equity, justice for all. And in the end, it is not an exaggeration to say to protect the planet and stave off the very worst impacts of climate crisis. One thing is clear, no country can solve any of these challenges all by itself. And governments alone also can't get it done. You need the energy, the ideas, the activism of an effort like Global Citizen. And so thank you for working for the transformational change that these crises demand. I want you to know President Biden has made a significant commitment to each of these interconnected goals. Already he has rejoined the Paris Agreement. He's put forward a series of executive orders that ensure that we're hitting the ground running, that we're accelerating our path towards net zero emissions, and we mean net zero emissions, which means the big polluting countries, the 17 major emitters, absolutely have to reduce their emissions faster than anyone else and bigger amounts than anyone else, because 17 countries equal about 85% of all the emissions in the world. We also need to finance the efforts to move forward, because some countries, the most vulnerable, just don't have the wherewithal to do this. And they're the least able to prepare for the climate threat. On Earth Day, President Biden is going to convene a meeting of world leaders virtually, still, in order to address the climate crisis and to prepare for the UN Climate Summit, which takes place at the end of this year in Glasgow. So this year is critical. I've heard that before. I've probably said it once or twice in the course of being in electoral politics, but charged now with the responsibility to negotiate for the United States, I can tell you, I am convinced that Glasgow in November of this year is our last best chance to get on the right track and to get the job done. Success means tapping into the best of everybody's collective ingenuity, their creativity, diplomacy, brain power, alternative energy power. And success means using every single tool that we have in both the public and the private sectors. So Global Citizen has got it right. I mean, success means lifting up communities that have long been left behind and creating an equitable recovery. It also means creating millions of jobs. So there's a huge upside here. It means less pollution in our air, less disease, less cancer, less heart compounded problems, less emphysema problems. It means making life healthier for citizens across the world. And that's not an exaggeration. You take the pollution out of the air, the particulates that come from fossil fuels, and we will strengthen the security of every nation on Earth, and we will be healthier in the doing of it. So President von der Leyen and Dr. Tedros and all of Global Citizen, thank you for convening us today. This is really the critical beginning of this decade's great work, and I'm privileged to be part of it with you. Back to you, Dr. Tedros.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my friend John, and thank you for your support and commitment. We're glad that the United States is staying in the WHO family and also for joining the Paris Agreement. And we look forward to our continued partnership as we work together to recover better together. First, we must respond. Our highest priority now is to stop transmission and save lives, and we have the tools to do it. Many countries have shown that even without vaccines, COVID-19 can be controlled with proven public health measures. And with the approval of safe and effective vaccines, we now have another powerful tool to add to the toolbox. But we must use these tools effectively. Last year, with the support of President von der Leyen, WHO and our partners launched the Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator with two aims: to develop vaccines, tests, and treatments fast and distribute them fairly. The first objective has been achieved. The second is in jeopardy. At the beginning of the year, I issued a challenge to all countries to ensure that vaccination of health workers and older people is underway in all countries within the first 100 days of this year. So far, 210 million doses of vaccine have been administered globally, but half of those are in just 2 countries, and 80% are in just 10 countries. More than 200 countries are yet to administer a single dose. The 7th of April is World Health Day, and this year we have chosen the theme of building a healthier, fairer world. But to make that theme a reality and not just a slogan, we need urgent action from high-income countries and manufacturers to fully fund the ACT Accelerator and share doses with COVAX. I would like to thank President Macron for his commitment to share 5% of France's doses with COVAX, and I echo the call made by President von der Leyen and President Ramaphosa for other countries to do the same. Second, we must recover. The pandemic has been a devastating demonstration that human health does not exist in a vacuum. Our health is intimately tied to the health of animals and ecosystems. So we can only safeguard human health by safeguarding the health of our planet, as John said. In May last year, WHO published our manifesto for a healthy and green recovery, with 6 policy prescriptions and more than 80 specific actions to protect nature, support clean energy, reduce pollution, promote sustainable food systems, and build healthier cities. We can only prevent future pandemics with an integrated One Health approach that addresses the impact of human activities that disrupt ecosystems, encroach on habitats, and further drive climate change. Third, we must rebuild. Vaccines will help to bring the pandemic under control, but we will still be left with many of the same problems that existed before and which have only been exacerbated by the pandemic. As I often say, there is no vaccine for poverty, no vaccine for hunger, no vaccine for climate change, and no vaccine for inequality. In 2050, nations came together to agree on a common vision for the world we want, the Sustainable Development Goals. We were already off track for the SDGs before the pandemic. Now we're even further behind. But that's no reason to give up. If anything, the pandemic has only shown us why the SDGs are so important, and we must pursue them with even more innovation and determination. So I'm very pleased to support Global Citizens Recover Better Together campaign to drive renewed commitment to end the pandemic, stop hunger, resume education, protect the planet, ensure equity, and drive progress towards all 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you once again to all our guests today, and to Hugh and the team at Global Citizen for bringing us together. We leave you with some messages from world leaders who have added their voices to the chorus calling for a healthier, safer, fairer, and more sustainable world. I thank you.
Dear friends, dear global citizens, never before our generation has faced such important and defining challenges.
In a crisis, it's natural to turn inwards, but a pandemic knows no borders.
We must work together in solidarity to ensure equitable vaccine access, to build immunity everywhere, enhance resilience and climate compliance, so that all persons can live in a healthy environment.
The pandemic should not make us forget other significant global challenges, protecting the planet, fighting hunger, fostering education worldwide, or promoting equality. This is why Spain wanted to be present today to support global citizens in our common efforts to make this world better every day.
Envidaremos esforços no sentido de redirecionar para os nossos tradicionais parceiros da cooperação 5% das vacinas adquiridas por Portugal, dando seguimento às ações de formação e capacitação local.
Multilateral action is vital to ensure access to vaccines, to combat the effects of the pandemic and recover better together.
I reiterate our call for a climate of cooperation and trust between states and other international actors to collectively take action to implement the 5 goals of Global Citizens Recovery Plan.
The resounding message rings clear. We can only recover better together.
Developing countries must be able to access long-term affordable finance to craft green economic stimulus measures and build back better.
La equidad y la solidaridad de los países ricos nunca había sido tan vital.
Let us use this opportunity to fight climate change and to stay together in the work towards recovery.
We count on Global Citizen to mobilize networks of young people around the world. Your voices must be heard. Shout loud, act now. Together, it is possible.